human rights organization.
It's been 8 years now since the death of renowned Nigerian pro-democracy and human rights activist Beko'S Ransom Kuti. Civil rights group campaigned for democracy, led other pro-democracy groups and individuals in a small ceremony at the Beko'S Ransom Kuti Park to mark the 8th anniversary of his passing. Among the small crowd that gathered at the park, the widow and daughter of the late Beko'S.
I woke up at 3:30 today, remembering my husband for all what he has done. He would have been 74 this year. I now ask the question, I said, Beko'S, would you have still been struggling? I said, yes, he would have, because he's a courageous man. He fought death. I remember this time last year, it was on a Friday when he died. He was looking at his time, waiting for death. He said we should take him to the hospital. Aren't we going to take him? He was prepared for death. So the struggle must continue. We mustn't give up.
The struggle, commenced over 20 years ago with this on the agenda. And I think it's a testimony to some of the successes of that struggle that this current regime feels that the national conference is one of the ways to detract Nigerians at this point in time. It's important to know that any national conference cannot be organized by the vested interests. Nigeria is a country that has been structured to profit those in power. It's designed to fuel corruption. And so people who are controlling such a structure cannot organize a national conference for Nigerians. It's not possible. So whatever they are doing now is a farce. It's not where the struggle ends for people. We still have to focus on this end goal of a sovereign national conference. They've tried it several times, but we have to put the pressure on for a truly independent People's National Conference. And I urge all of us to keep this in our focus.
Several other speeches followed in similar vein, all extolling the virtues of the late activist.
Beko'S Ransom Kuti was exceptionally somebody you can rely upon entirely in the pursuit that we were carrying out and still do carry out in the interest of all the peoples of this country called Nigeria.
Beko'S legacy transcends the entirety of the Nigerian state. We should always celebrate what unites us. Those who have benefited most from the system want to continue to divide us according to religious and ethnic lines. This we must always resist. Now, I want us to believe that they are also making a mistake by convening what they think is a stage-managed national conference. If we ever get involved with that process, we will let it be their Waterloo. They think they are making a mistake, but when we get involved with it, we will tell them that once that conference starts, it cannot finish until we Nigerians decide what to do with it. We can let them know that once that conference starts, they say they have no-go areas. They say that certain things are no-go areas, but it's all a matter of semantics. It's a matter of English language. If you say A to Z is a no-go area, what of Z to A? So that is how we'll approach it. Nigerians will attack this conference and will approach it to show that what Beko'S died for was not in vain. What we need to do now is to take over leadership of this country from below. Come together in your streets. Come together in large number. When the election comes, pick one among yourselves. Sponsor into position of authority. No other party can defeat you in this country again. They have been suppressing this concept. But all Nigeria, it's time for all of us to rise up and say enough is enough.
After all the speeches, a wreath was laid at the foot of this statue of the late Beko'S.
We lay this wreath that all those who work differently in that respect, for the different peoples of this country, first and foremost, and then for the unity we want, that is one agreed by all. We lay this wreath also as a reminder that count what may, truth, justice, democracy, fundamental human rights will supervene and succeed for all the different peoples. When we talk of democracy, it is government of the people, for the people, by the people. And until each and every of the different peoples of Nigeria have democracy, we don't have it yet in the country. But by grace of God, it will not be long and we shall have it. In God's name.
The late Beko was a staunch advocate of a sovereign national conference while he was alive. But he did not live to see one in his lifetime. With the government now set to begin its own national conference, we asked some of the activists here what they made of it.
Beko had always wanted for us to come and discuss the crisis of nationhood. 8 years after his exit, the government had deemed it to call a national conference. A pragmatic Beko would have also insisted that there must be no-go areas. And that is what we are insisting, that people must have unfettered access into discussing even the existence of this country must be discussed. And secondly, whatever resolution that will be arrived at. So even government handpicking people they want to handpick and then leaving few for the civil society groups, I just want to say that whatever resolution that conference arrives at can only be upheld by the referendum of the Nigerian people. It's after the referendum that we'll now have that constitution that we refer to as People's Constitution.
I have been advocate of this Sovereign National Conference, and we spent over a decade clamoring for it. Good thing the government asked for dialogue, but it's not just about calling for the dialogue. There are issues, there are certain indices that we must insist that it comes. That's why some of us felt we not necessarily have to participate in the conference, not because we believe in the conference, but let us start somewhere. If a government of the day will call for a conference, believing that something actually went wrong, the unity of the country is being threatened. And to that extent, he said, okay, let's sit down and talk. Let us assume people will sit down and talk. But it's also our responsibility to ensure that those delegates who will go to the conference, we will ensure that we compel them, we will watch them, we will listen, and we will advise them from experiences. That beyond sitting at the conference, we must insist, let them go to the conference and insist that the outcome of that conference should not go through the National Assembly, should go through referendum. Because if we go through referendum, that will enable us to address this fraud document we call 1999 Constitution, that we are challenging the legitimacy.
The contraption we have today is nothing but a fraud on the Nigerian people. If you remove the government nominees from that conference, they cannot achieve the 75% they say they need to achieve to pass any resolution in that conference. Imagine after setting up the conference and bringing out the modalities, they say 75% is needed to pass any resolution. Knowing fully well that all government nominees, if you remove them, both at federal and state level, once they give them instructions not to back any resolution, nobody can achieve 75% in that conference. And that is why we miss Dr. Beko Ransom Kuti. That's why we miss Chief Gani Fawehinmi, because I am definite about what their position would have been. They would have dismissed it from day one, this contraption that has been set up by Jonathan. So we must carry on with the same tradition that our leaders like Dr. Beko Ransom Kuti carried on. We must carry on with that tradition. The tradition of critical analysis of every government action, critical analysis of every government move. We must always look at all this government action with a thick lens to see where government is going.
We took up some of the issues raised there with a member of the conference committee, Tony Oranta, who was also at the park for the memorial.
In the committee, our report said, let the national conference decide whether it wants a referendum. You see, you have to be strategic in thinking and planning. If you say now, for example, oh, we must put a legislation through the National Assembly before the convoking of the conference, that means the conference won't take place this year. And wants it to take place. If we say you must have a referendum, that may mean that certain very vital interests in Nigeria will start working hard against the conference. So we're not recommending that there be a referendum or there not be a referendum. Left alone to me and to individuals on the committee, we would have preferred a referendum. But we decided for political and strategic reasons to say let the referendum be decided, or let the national conference itself decide whether it wants a referendum whether he wants a brand new constitution, and how it shall go about having it. And believe me, when the people speak, I want to see which Nigerian will stand up and oppose them.
The conference is due to begin sometime in March, with 492 delegates nominated by the government and various organizations. But with the current controversy trailing it, one wonders how the late Beko would have viewed the conference were he alive today. Since the dead don't talk, we can only speculate. Chidinma Chikezie, TV 360, Lagos.